Sonic Blue Darkfold on behalf of the O Pop-Ed Show, and boy do we have a treat for you. We are about ready to step into the Toonseum here, which is located in downtown Pittsburgh, and we have a very exclusive interview with the master of puppetry himself, Jim Martin, who has worked on several different movies and also television, and is most notoriously known for his work on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Part 3. And we're about ready to find out what more he's done to the community of puppetry and voice as we step inside the Toonseum. Come on along with me and we'll see if we can get some insight on a master of his own right. And when you step into the Toonseum, this is the first guy you'll see. This is the executive director of the Toonseum, Joe Rose.
Hi, how are you?
And we are about ready to indulge ourselves in cartoon memorabilia and going back into the nostalgic age of probably even your past or your grandmother's past or your great-grandmother's past. But what we're here to do is conduct an interview with a true legend in his own right. And Jim is right behind this wall. So what do you say we take a sneak over and surprise him with a little interview? Oh, wow. Okay, so let me tell you first of all, this is a tremendous honor. Jim Martin here for the Ohio Pop-Ed or O Pop-Ed Show. Welcome to the O Pop-Eds, Jim Martin.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Hi.
I understand you've done a lot out of life. Tell us, what was your finest achievement that you would think that you can sort of put at the top of your ever-growing career as a puppeteer and voice actor?
Well, I think my favorite, happiest project that I worked on was probably the Puzzle Place. It was a TV show from PBS, and it was on that show that I got the opportunity to direct.
Nice.
And I played Ben, the character of Ben, and the Blue Peace Police on the Puzzle Place.
Blue Peace Police. Try saying that 5 times fast.
Yeah, especially this early in the morning.
Yes.
But probably the thing that people really enjoyed the most that I did was work on the Great Space Coaster to do Gary Gnu.
Oh yes, I remember that one very well.
Gary is a very fun character to perform, and I love Gary very much. But as far as a body of work, I think the Puzzle Place was one of the most satisfying. Because I love teaching, and I think the Puzzle Place was the kind of show where children really could learn and grow from, where the Great Space Coaster is more of an entertainment and a fun show, which is definitely a good thing too.
It is, it really is. Well, I remember Gary Gnu from my childhood, and I would say that would definitely be the most memorable character I can remember from the show.
Thank you.
But now let's talk about something something more current. Your work on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. Tell me how that happened.
Okay, that was like I think in 1992. And I was able to work on that movie. I auditioned for the role, and I was not in the suit. That was Mark Queso. Mark Queso was the bodysuit performer, actor inside of Leonardo, and I was the animatronic puppeteer. So Mark did all of the physical body movement and all of the performing, and then I did the voice and the radio control facial movements for the character of Leonardo. Wow. And then after we did the movie, then I forget the actor, but someone else then replaced my voice. They had a celebrity come in and do that voice.
Now I understand, what is it, Corey Feldman came back to reprise his role as Donatello?
Yeah, I think he did the voice, but you know what happens is after the movie's all done, then they go into an ADR session where they actually watch the movie and then just lip sync back to the voices.
Okay, so it wasn't all right there live.
No.
You didn't have all the sound equipment there as it happens.
Well, what they do record for a guide track is the puppeteers performing. So when we're out shooting, they are actually recording our voices as we puppeteer the face, and then that becomes the guide track for the actors.
Right. Wow, and that would be the first movie after Jim Henson's death, right? Because I think it was dedicated to him right after he died. And
yeah, that was not a Henson project.
No,
the first two Turtles movies were Henson, and the third animatronics for it was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Back in Time. All those effects were done by a really great company called All Effects, and Eric Allard and his crew were responsible for doing Johnny Five. in Short Circuit, and that's what a lot of people really enjoyed and remember his team for.
I really love that movie too. You didn't have anything to do with that, did you?
No, I did not.
No. But, did you?
Except going to watch it and enjoy it.
I love the movie. I love both of them. I own both of them, and I really think that was a really awesome introduction to robotic puppetry and animatronics.
Right, and without trying to disguise it as something other than what it was.
Right,
robot, you know,
exactly. Well, that's the whole point of movie making, is you try to convince the public that what they're seeing up on the big screen is about as realistic as possible. And that also happens by bringing out characters. When you, whether it's a puppet, a robot, or a fictional character, you try to bring them to life as best as possible, so that way you can portray them in the eyes of the public. They can actually have something to believe in.
Absolutely.
Now, I believe you stand by this fact as a number one key point in creating or voicing a character, or presenting it to the public in a way where it's either entertaining or teaching, as you've had several projects. But what technique do you usually use in order to bring your characters to life?
Well, it all starts with the script. You know, there's no show, any kind of a show, without a script. And you're given the script. Sometimes you're able to input on the physical look of the character. I've worked on shows where the character has changed based on, you know, ideas that I have and other people have. Other times you're handed the character and the script and you go perform it. What you normally do then is start looking at it, looking at the script, looking at the other characters that you're dealing with, and then try to imagine, you know, something that would entertain you if this character were alive, you know, and you're bringing him to life.
Right.
And what is his personality? You know, as I always tell people with acting characters, what does he want? What does your character want?
Right.
And what is his needs in life, in his own little world?
And what makes him happy, and what makes him sad, and what makes him angry, and you just kind of delve into that. And that's one of the techniques that I myself used doing the Pop-It show. And a lot of people would dream about having like 16 or 17 different characters, but I actually happen to have brought Duramy here, and this is the new addition to the Pop-It show, and he's going to have 3 voices all in one. For the Pop-Ets, I've done 16, would you say? 16 puppets and 16 voices, so now I have 17 puppets and 19 voices, just with Duramy alone.
Wow.
And for the first time, now I'm kind of interested. This little question does come with a little story, background story. Our convention for Anthrocon was Morphicon, and that's one I'm staffed at. That's our convention in Columbus, Ohio. And in Columbus, we actually did our musical live in front of an audience for the very first time. We ran the actual musical on our show last year, and it ran for about 4 hours, and we had to condense 4 hours down into 1.
Wow.
And we managed to find a way, because we had a lot of filler stuff in the 4-hour presentation, but in the hour one, we just stuck to the main meat of the whole play. It consisted of myself and our former cast member, Sajin, and he would provide the extra puppet that we needed in order to play it off. This was the very first time I've actually had to do it by myself, though, but with the help of Justin Reese, we were able to pull off all 3 puppets to become animated, but I did provide the voice for all 3. My question, and the main part of the story here, while I was rehearsing for the first live presentation, it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and the Griswold has been closed off for any events, and we had more than enough time to rehearse. And during rehearsal, I actually made my star character, Bointy Fewit, during one of the very touching moments in the play, cry. And as I was making a very sad setting for the scene, I myself had started to cry. And I managed to pull it off 3 times after I did that. My question to you is, have you ever been under the, how should I word this? Have you ever been into a situation where you had to really make yourself sort of really cry or really feel the emotion of the character you're portraying in order to bring it that much into reality?
Gee, that's a hard question.
It is. It's hard enough to structure it, too.
but an easy answer on that would be yes. Yeah. But a more complicated answer would be, you know, when you're performing, it really depends on how much you need to give. You know, remember, this is acting, so
Right,
if the character's supposed to be in pain, you don't have to hurt yourself. You know?
Right.
I mean, and that is something that humans do that is so unique, is empathize with characters.
Exactly.
And we don't actually have to be experiencing what they're experiencing to understand, you know.
Right.
So part of acting is, you know, reacting to situations and empathizing, but also, you know, yes, sometimes you do get caught up into a performance so much that you just lose yourself totally in the character.
I felt the same way when that happened to me.
And on the other hand, you know, I've been involved with other performers that I'm working with them, and they are so funny that they make me laugh so much that I forget that I'm performing and ruin the take or whatever.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, the simple answer is yes, because sometimes you do get caught up, whether emotionally on what you're doing or emotionally in what someone else is doing, and then you just kind of forget, or you have to keep reminding yourself to stay in the moment, you know.
Right.
As you were doing, you were staying in the moment.
Right, and I just really felt so close to that one character I was portraying that I just actually became that character for just a moment in time.
Right.
And that moment in time, I actually had the satisfaction of hearing the response from the audience members when they said that they almost cried. So that, to me, tells me it was a job well done, and I'm definitely going to rely on that technique again in the future. But speaking about we're going to...
If I may just jump in for a second, I mean, it's the whole idea of when you're teaching acting to somebody, you're teaching them that acting is believing.
Right.
And if you as an actor believe in what you do, then the audience will believe in it too, and that's what you were doing.
Exactly, and that's the whole secret behind acting. And a lot of people who are aspiring actors, I've actually managed to help coach along as sort of like an acting coach. I've also been in independent movies myself, and with the Puppeteer crew. I also, since I'm the director and also the writer and the creator and all that stuff, I also manage all the filming that we're going to be doing, and I edited everything together and finally produce a finished product. And a lot of hard work does go into the show, and
sure does.
I'm feeling very very honored that this is going into the show as well.
Oh, thank you.
A very cornerstone in O-Puppet's history. But we're talking about history now, and I would love to know how all of this started out in the very beginning of your career as a puppeteer and voice actor.
Well, I think when I went to school, everybody made a puppet around second grade.
Oh, yes.
And I always feel that you either fell in love with puppets then or you didn't. You know? And you saw it as a doll or you saw it as a character.
Right.
And when I talk to people who are puppeteers and love puppetry and that, they always seem to say that, you know, they saw the puppet that they made as a character. Yes. And a way of performing. The puppet became a tool to convey a story. It was about storytelling. So yeah, I guess I started in second grade loving puppets. And being a Pittsburgher, you know, I grew up with Mr. Rogers,
oh yes,
Howdy Doody, and all of those shows. And at times I would be fascinated by the technology of it, and at times I would be fascinated by the characters. So for me, the love of puppetry started very, very young.
I would have to say that I have a very similar experience myself, only we had, the class that I was in, they actually had some donated puppets to them, and they decided to get us interested in puppeting in the second grade as well. It was kind of funny though, because we were ducked behind like a table that was turned upward, a nice long table, with a tablecloth thrown over it, and that was our puppet stage. And we would come up and we would do a little introduction, and a lot of people would use their normal voices. This is second grade, of course that's going to happen.
Sure.
And right from that moment, I recall that I was given this cat puppet. It was this big fluffy cat. The only embarrassing thing I remember about doing this, I was able to change my voice to give it a different voice other than my own. So I guess my own introduction would be second grade as well. However, my mind had quite not developed into being creative yet. So I came up with a name, then I forgot it. And I turned to my puppeting partner and I said, and my name is, what's my name again? You know, so it was a kind of a cute moment, but everybody got a laugh out of it. I was so embarrassed, but looking back at it now, that could be registered as entertainment. That was just a little sidetrack, you know, to basically explain my own experiences in the second grade. When you mentioned that, it kind of brought back a memory of mine.
Good.
It really did, and I've long since forgotten about that. So.
Oh, I'm glad I helped you remember your job.
Yeah. And so now we develop into forming it into a career. Your love of puppetry kind of grew from the second grade on into adulthood, and trying this out for a living. What would you say would your first professional project have been?
My first professional project was when I was in college. I was doing puppet shows for like birthday parties and holiday shows and for conventions and different things around the Pittsburgh area.
Nice.
I got a chance to work on a local television show called the Captain Jim Show, which I was not Captain Jim. I was a clown and a puppeteer on the show.
Oh, okay.
And Captain Jim was played by a gentleman, Ted Ekman. And he and Mike Andrews, who was the director of the show, gave me a wonderful opportunity to be involved here in Pittsburgh on local television.
Nice. And then that kind of blossomed more vistas for your future roles.
Yeah, then I started doing puppetry for the city parks department. I became a puppeteer for the parks department. I got the opportunity to go to New York to audition for the Great Space Coaster and got that role.
Nice.
And then worked on Captain Kangaroo. I worked on a show called Once Upon a Tree in Minneapolis.
Once Upon a Tree, that does sound very familiar.
I played a beaver character called Forrest Stump, and Forrest Stump was this really angry beaver.
Wow.
So it's just throughout the years I've been able to do a lot of different things and always come back. I live here in Pittsburgh and I love performing here. And I'm now working and helping out. I'm on the board of the Toonseum, which is a cartoon art museum here in Pittsburgh.
Now let's talk about the Toonseum for a bit. Now, how did this all start?
The Toonseum was founded by Joe Wose, and for 6 years it was part of the Pittsburgh Children's Museum. And then about almost 2 years ago in November, Joe decided to move out of Mom's basement, the Children's Museum, and get the board together, and we have our own space in downtown Pittsburgh in the Cultural District.
And here it is, by some immaculate beauty that it is, and it's very, very interesting, just the different, it's like walking down this hallway, I can start to feel the nostalgia in the air, and everything that I've ever loved in my childhood about all these cartoons is starting to come back to me in my mind. And was that the kind of the response that you were going for with your guests?
Well, our exhibits rotate. So every 2 months we have new exhibits. The current exhibit that we're doing now, which runs to January 31st, 2011, is a superhero exhibit. We have over 50 pieces of original superhero art.
Very nice.
We've had the exhibit, The Art of Charlie Tuna, Charlie the Tuna Fish. We've had the art of Carol Spinney. We had a wonderful exhibit called The Dog Days of Summer, which was all of animated dogs. We've done Brenda Starr. So you come and you see the exhibit and probably won't have a chance to see this collection ever again.
Right, so the only way you can actually see this collection, because it keeps on rotating, is just to come here constantly, and that brings in a return interest to the Toonseum, and I think that is a fabulous way to bring back people.
And we have classes, and we have different lectures and screenings of films.
Very nice.
So we try to keep the Toonseum a place with a lot of life and a lot of constant change and information for people. We're toonseum.org online, and Toonseum is also on Facebook and Twitter. It's TOONSEUM.
And there's the website right there. You can just go right to it. And when you get there, bookmark it. You might want to stay around for a while and pay close attention to what's going on in the website. And especially if you're in the Pittsburgh area, you might want to kind of keep a close watch on this place, because it's always going to be changing.
Always.
Always. Yeah, so, I have a world of questions. I could just go on and on, but I'm pretty sure that the public would like to see more of this museum. Would you mind giving us a little tour of the place?
Well, why don't you just take a look around?
Well, I'd love to do that.
Okay.
Why don't we take a look around the Toonseum here? This has been a great interview with Jim Martin, a legend in his own right, in the ways of puppetry. And I mean, hey, it's all got to start somewhere, but it all ends with just a really good time and a really educational period, but not just the viewer, but also yourself.
Spider-Man. You gotta take a picture of Spider-Man.
You do like Spider-Man. You've always
Right? Okay, that's what you have to do. You have to stay right beside him and do that, right?
Oh, can you stay there too?
Oh, sure. Ready? Together?
Got it.
And with each other. Ready?
Now, you mentioned animatronics, and you mentioned different ways of rigging up the puppets, especially in your work in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, there's a lot of rigging. I just got Doremi here, and the only problem is I need an extra set of fingers in order to control these mouths. As you can see, that they do move. There's a compartment for your finger here, in all three, and then you got your thumb and your pinky to go into the arms to control those.
So it's like this, right? All three fingers.
All three fingers controlling the head.
So whoever designed this came up with a brilliant idea of using every digit on your hand to do something different.
Oh, this isn't the most complex for a puppet I have, though. The most complex I would have to say is Jose el Chameleon. Okay. He's a chameleon, and being a chameleon, of course, from Folk Manus, I'm not sure if you know the Folk Manus construction of that particular puppet.
No, I do not.
But you insert your hand into the cavity, and your top part of your hand goes up into the upper jaw, your thumb goes into the lower jaw. Now, your pinky and your index finger will control the rods that control his eyes. And you have your middle finger that will control his tongue. So you have all of this mechanic mechanics inside the puppet, and after a while of controlling him, see, I try not to do his eyes too much because you can't really see that on camera from a distance, but for close up, it's kind of, the rods, when you move the mouth, kind of do help as you see his eyes going all over the place. And of course his tongue, I have to control his tongue because that's the only way that he can pronounce where he came from. Venezuela. And he'll tell you, this is a poor version of Venezuela. We could not afford to live there, But one of the things that I myself have taught in the ways of creating characters is that if you create a character from, say, a different culture, you have to, at best, to learn that culture before you actually go and
That's very true. So it's not looked at as if you're mocking the culture.
Exactly. For instance, Jose el Chameleon. See, I used to live in Los Angeles, so a lot of my friends were Hispanics. And I learned how to speak Spanish. I learned how to the culture of the Latino sort of background. Not only that, but the family values, what they ate, what they like, how they spoke, where they like to go, what they like to do for a good time. And that's how I was able to implement all of that into Jose el Chameleon. Now, Consumer Fox, he's my character from the UK. He does our consumer reports, and we do little commercial spots for certain companies. Like products, when they come out with a retro, like Retro 7-Up just came out, and Consumer Fox just hit the roof, and so he decided to do a nice little segment for Retro 7-Up. Mostly, though, you'll hear him talking, and when he's not promoting products, he'll speak with a very distinctive UK accent. He's from the better part of London, and he enjoys playing cricket and eating crumpets and tea. All of his cultures, the way they pronounce words over there are different from over here. like for instance, he has to say the word shops and we say stores, and other words that they would use constantly. I would have to sort of imbue into that particular character, and then what makes it interesting is when I'm voicing and using a different puppet over here from like America, he'll talk about going to the store and hanging out and drinking beer or whatever, and then consumer will be enjoying caviar and sipping on tea and all that kind of stuff. But there are just so many different cultures to learn. And the most magical part, I guess, is to sort of learn them for yourself, so that way you can bring your character more to life, and like you said, less of a mockery, more of a character that they themselves can associate with.
Exactly, exactly.
Yes. And I must say that it is very challenging, but I love challenges.
Well, and the humor should always come out of the situation rather than making fun of an accent or someone's culture.
Exactly. You want to be as dead on as possible, especially if you're going to do different cultures. If you can pull it off, I'd say go for it. But if not, just stick to just a few basic characters.
What you know.
Exactly. Stick with what you know. That would be a very, I guess, a sort of dire piece of advice for anybody who wants to try out voice acting and creating different characters, especially. Did you ever feel challenged as many characters as you portrayed?
Every time. Every time, yes,
wow.
Sure.
So I'm not the only one.
Sure, absolutely. That's part of our jobs, you know.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I really wanted to see what we got well, I guess we could start from the back, or from the start, actually front.
To start from the front, we have people coming in now.
Exactly, yeah.
And if you guys would like to just look around and look at the superhero exhibit, and I have to go talk to some of our other friends.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Hey, I really enjoyed having you, and perhaps since you're in the Pittsburgh area, maybe sometime when you're not doing anything, we would love to have you appear on Old Puppets as a live guest sometime.
Okay, that would be very nice.
Okay.
Very nice. I love Ohio.
Really? Excellent.
Yes.
Well, hey, come to Columbus, you appear on the show, and we'll make a night day out of it. We'll get some Chinese food, and then we'll just sit back and talk about
and Columbus Chinese food.
I know the best spots. And it happens to be on Morse Road. There's two of them. That's how good it is. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you and look forward to having you live, and we are going to have a really good time, and we'd love to see what you do. In fact, if you have your own puppets, feel free to bring them along too.
Okay.
And we'll see if we can get a collaborative show together.
That would be fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the interview, and thank you for the many wonderful things that you've brought to the entertainment world. We all thank you immensely.
You're very welcome.
On behalf of Old Puppet Show, I'm Sonic Blue Darkfold. This has been Jim Martin, and we are both very pleased to have brought you Toonseum, a retrospective.